Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of those watching today. I am thrilled to have Parminder Batra with us today. She is the CEO of TraknProtect, a company that is really focused on protecting employees and ensuring the fact that they keep their guests safe, which is all of us. Parminder, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So, Parminder, it's been a crazy little while, right? It's the last 24 months have been nuts. And I know personally how busy you've been. You and I talk on a fairly frequent basis, and you're always going 100 miles an hour. So, during COVID, some of the companies that I've talked to had some time to reflect, not only reflect on what's going on in the market, what's happening to them personally, but also, what are they doing corporately? Are they on the right track? Are they doing the right thing for the industry? So, first and foremost, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the audience and then talk a little bit about TraknProtect, and then we'll dig into that first question.
So my name is Parminder Batra. I'm the CEO of TraknProtect, and have been working within the hospitality industry for the past few years. Still consider myself a newcomer because everyone we meet has been in the industry for 30 years, or 20 years, and so we find ourselves saying like we're still the new kid on the block, but really passionate about working with hotels and hoteliers.
That's awesome. And from my perspective, I've watched TraknProtect from the outside and the inside, and it's been quite interesting, how you've launched that entire company and got it rolling. So, with related to the first question, which areas do you think TraknProtect had to review, revise, figure out what was next, related to the environment of COVID that we were all in?
You know, when COVID hit, as we all know, it happened to everyone. It was almost overnight, right? Everything changed. And so we really went from helping hotels comply with the five-star promise and helping them meet deadlines. And there was the Illinois deadline coming up, and there was deadlines in Sacramento. It went from literally overnight of helping people meet deadlines, make sure they were complying with brand standards, state requirements, city requirements, union requirements, to suddenly shifting gears and saying the hotels were in survival mode. And their whole thing was, well, we're not worried about the deadline right now. We're worried about
Right.
our employees. We're worried about our guests. We're worried about safety. We're worried about how are we going to survive this pandemic. And so we shifted gears and we started having conversations with hotels like, what are you concerned about, in the sense like, and their number one thing was, we're having to furlough staff because we don't have guests. So how do we bring the guest back? That was the number one thing. And so we started doing research on what was important to the guests. And really it came out, and by this time in the summer of 2020, hotels were launching, major brands were launching these the cleanliness protocols. So we
Right.
suddenly had, the media was awash with every brand having a requirement. And if you're a property management group with multiple brands, it was like, how do I comply with all of this? But then the thing was, people still weren't coming back. So then the question was, there was all this research that was done, and we were part of the conversation. And okay, what is holding people back? And it turned out it was communication. You're in communications, and you know this, that people wanted to not just know that you had the protocol, they wanted to know it was actually being adhered to and have that communicated to them. So,
Right.
like United Airlines, cleaning their planes, people don't want to just know that, hey, yes, we're spraying the planes. They want to be able to go into the app and see what are the protocols and that it's being followed. So with hoteliers, that's what we found. So what we did was we've done inventory tracking, room trade tracking. Well, no one was doing room service anymore. Room trade
Right.
tracking really was irrelevant, for even today to a large extent. There's very few hotels that are providing room service. So it wasn't a priority. So then it's like, okay, how do we use our technology? We've identified the problem, which is that people want cleanliness protocols and they want to know they're being adhered to, and they want that communicated to them. How do we use what we do to help close that gap? And we found that we could with our technology. So what we did was we took our, say, our room tray trackers, our inventory trackers, and we, instead of tracking one thing at a time, we put it all together and said, okay, what is it that a guest would want to know? And we found guests wanted to know, when was my room last cleaned?
Right.
How long? What was used? Was there an electrostatic sprayer used? Was there a UV light used? Tell me what was used so that I feel better entering the room. And then once I enter, maybe I might not let housekeeping come back for the duration of my stay.
Right.
So we wanted to be able to give hoteliers, instead of using paper checklists, we wanted to give them means of, again, being able to do it quickly and efficiently and yet be able to communicate that to the guests. So that's
Right.
what we did in just shifting our product line a little bit, and using what we had to be able to help hotels in that environment.
Yeah, it's so important. It's interesting to me that the guests are becoming that savvy, right? We've always said, okay, the guests are going to come in, let's give them great service, and they're going to be happy. But now they're saying, are you using Lysol? Even down to that level of granularity, and it's pretty wild. Because of news and the fact that everybody's been watching it 24/7. It appears they're getting some very interesting tidbits, and I think it applies definitely to our industry for sure. So Track and Protect went and did a tweak, which I think is exactly what it needed to do. How did COVID affect you? You've got kids, I know that. We're both working from home offices, which is the norm. But how did it affect you and your family?
We've been very fortunate in our Track and Protect family, as well as my personal
Yeah,
family. We've been very, very fortunate that no one contracted the virus. So I feel blessed in that, and I'm thankful for that. But then, I do know of friends and family that did get it, and so being able to support them through that time, that was important. And then beyond that, the bigger issue has been with the Track and Protect family, and we consider our hoteliers our family, is to see, people that have been in hotels, GMs, directors of room, directors of security, be at hotels for 30 years, 25 years, and suddenly be furloughed last year. And
right,
that was heartbreaking, right? To see that and to receive notes that, hey, I won't be there. Now, what's amazing is that this year we're seeing many of them land on their feet, and for them to call us and say, "Hey, I'm at this new place now. I want to call you. Come talk to me," or we need to re-engage. And so it's uplifting
right,
to hear that. But last year was heartbreaking. Um, Personally, while my kids are here in the U.S., my family's in Toronto, and so with the borders closing, I haven't been able to see my family in about 2 years.
right.
So my sister, my mom, they're up in Canada. So we haven't really been able to connect in the last 2 years and see them in person. There's babies that have been born since then. There's,
Wow.
family
Yeah,
events
yeah.
happen that, it's you're at a distance.
Well, as you know, I'm an hour north of Toronto, so if you want me to go and say hi for you, I'd be happy to do that.
It sounds good. I just might need to. I don't know if they even remember who I am anymore. I need to sort of send someone to say, "Hey, remember her?"
There you go.
Yeah.
It's too weird. Very, very weird.
Mhm.
Well, Americans are allowed to fly in now, so
Yeah.
it's a challenge of all the stuff that you have to do to go back and forth. It's kind
Yeah.
of nuts. So one of the things that, and we've talked about this in the past, is you're the CEO of a company that's growing, which is awesome, especially in this day and age. But you also have some passions, and one of the passions that you have is the fight against human trafficking, which is obviously in the orbit of the hotel industry. We seem to be a little bit at the forefront of that. And also from the employee perspective and how they need to be dealing with some issues that they may or may not, or they may not understand, I guess is the right terminology. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know the story of how it came about as to how. So just to share that, I was at a hotel in Vegas and was in the late at night got a call where someone wanted to call an outside line, and I was sleeping, I was tired, and I was like, dial 9, and I hung up, and then as soon as I hung up, I realized the person sounded very scared, and just immediately I knew that this person was in trouble, or, perhaps a girl who was being trafficked. And here I was, I'd just been so out of it that I just hung up, and I thought, oh, please call back. And I remember pacing. She did call back, and I said, are you okay? Tell me your room number. Is there any way I can send help for you? Um, the hotel didn't have room numbers on it. That, I guess, because being a large hotel,
Right.
they interchange phones within rooms, so they blacked it out. Not, I don't think for any reason other than the fact that it was just more efficient to do it that way. But I think, in doing so, they put someone at risk without realizing it. And so she couldn't give me her room number. And then suddenly she started to cry and hung up. And I called security, called the front desk, and I couldn't get her help. And it really affected me. And it stands out because that night I felt helpless. I mean, with all the technology in the world, I couldn't get the hotel to trace that call and just go check on her. I didn't
Mhm.
want the room number. I didn't want to, violate anyone's privacy, but I just wanted someone to go check in on her. And just so happens that I think it's serendipity, you could say, or it was meant to be. I mean, I love what I do, and I wake up thinking hospitality, but there's a passion that you need. And so just so happened 2 days later met Brittany Dunn of Safe House Project in DC at an AHLA conference. And she was talking about, human trafficking victims. And I said, this incident happened, and I'm convinced this person was a human trafficking victim. I have no way of proving it, but that's what my gut tells me. And she said, here are the 10 things you could have done. You could have emailed, you could have done a form online, you could have texted, you could have called. And I said, I had no idea. And she said, well, A, you can still do it, but B, it's important to be trained. And in that moment, I realized that I had felt so helpless at the hotel that the one way to get the power back was to be educated. So I
Right.
committed myself, and we came back, and I shared it with the team, and I found the team was inspired that, yeah, we need to be part of the solution. We're a safety company, and we need to help solve this problem. It took on a whole new momentum within the company, and I feel that it inspired us all to go beyond just solving, not just solving an employee safety issue. That's of course there, but we're always about doing good, doing well, or doing well, doing good. That this was a passion, and that was it, and that started. So now we're 100% trained. 100% of our employees are trained. We're certified on watch company. We're leaders in freedom with Safe House, where we're advocates of eradication of human trafficking, and specifically in hotels. And Marriott has a commitment to eradicate human trafficking and training their employees. What
Right.
we're asking our partners like Venza, and they've done it as well, is to say, to be in our partner ecosystem, we would love for you to train your employees and be 100% 100% of your
Right.
employees trained as well, because it's not just up to the hotels to identify it. It's you and I traveling. It's
Hmm.
you and I seeing it and being eyes and ears on the ground as well. By serving the hotel industry, the one way we can serve them is with our products, but we can also serve them by sharing their mission and
Right.
by educating ourselves. So we're really becoming advocates and asking our partners to train as well, so that we can all be eyes and ears. And I think if we can create that ecosystem, the impact we can have is exponential.
Right. Yeah, I agree because it's something that I personally don't look for when I'm traveling. But you have a heightened sense of awareness when you've taken the courses and figured out that
Right.
this means this and that means that. So it's really quite powerful, and kudos to you and everybody at Track and Protect for doing that. I think it's amazing. Along those same lines, we're living in a world right now that I think is uber sensitive, and sensitivity to things around us, sensitivity to things that annoy us, sensitivity to things that we may feel are forced upon us. You and I have bantered back and forth related to some articles that we've seen in the airline sector that shows people being taped to their chair because they're being unruly, I think is one of the terms that they've used, which I think is probably a little bit too mellow. Um, but all of that being said, you know, hospitality, airlines, the travel industry in general, we're always trying to service our guests and do whatever we can, but there's even more of an urgency now to ensure that the employees are protected because of the wackiness that's going on in the market. Is that something that TraknProtect is focused on at the moment?
Absolutely. What we're hearing about is, and as you saw, the FAA is finally like having fining individuals for that because, you know, in fact, recently I was on a flight and they announced and they said, our flight attendants are here to serve you, but please don't give them a hard time. I mean, they are simply doing a job. And there is this heightened sense of whether it's, and I don't know if it's a sense of entitlement or it's lack of practice of not having traveled so long, or just, well, now I have, I'm just kind of, I want more because I'm paying for it. And I feel like the service, like for example, some people feel that they're entitled or they should be getting daily housekeeping or should get
Right.
breakfast because yes, COVID or no COVID, if I'm paying the same rate, then I should get
Mhm.
similar or same service, right? And so there's this whole, I go back to entitlement, there's sense of that, they're doing that. But I think what's being forgotten is employees are still out there. They're meeting people day in, day out. They are still being exposed. So what you're paying for is, there's a core product and there's the ancillary products. Let's not forget that those are just, yes, they make our lives easier, they're better, but the core product's still being provided to you. You're flying point A to B. You're getting, a room, a clean room to put your head down on and have a quiet space to work.
Mhm.
So I think if we stick to the core, then we are still getting what we bargained for, what we signed up for. But the employees are at the forefront of that. So first of all, with the labor challenges, hotels don't have enough employees. So the hotel hasn't, shrunk because the workforce shrunk.
Right.
The hotel is still the 500 room hotel or 250 room hotel. It's just that they have, fewer employees, which then means because they're all spread out, there's and then you have two sides of the equation. You have fewer employees and they are more likely to be alone or in an area where no one's within a hearing distance. And then on top of that, you've got the rise of the unruly guest, so to speak. Proportionally speaking, there's more of those, you could say, angry or just disturbed or just impatient guests out there
Mhm.
that want more. So fewer employees are doing more on the day-to-day side, but they're also having to deal with more of these guests. And so both sides of the equation have gone up, which then create for this, it's like the perfect storm, right? Create for an environment which is unsafe for the employee because you never know, just like the airline, what's going to set someone off. Now, hotel employees aren't going to tape someone to a chair, but you
No.
do want to be able to call for help. Now, in that
Right.
case, the case that you and I talked about, the airline attendant didn't have a choice. I mean, they were midair.
Right.
What were they going to do? Here, the point is, can we equip the hotel employee with a button to call security, to call a manager,
Right.
to call someone and say, there's something going on here and I need help, you know? So I think in some ways, while from a list of priorities, it's a priority to get heads in beds. I think protecting the employee is also really important because there are so few of them, and you want to make sure you're protecting those that are there.
Yeah, it's so important because, as you said, the pool of employees or the labor pool is gotten smaller, and so
Mm,
every employee that you have within your orbit becomes more and more valuable. And as such, you need to treat them that much better. Uh, you know, eh, People don't necessarily want more money. They want to make sure that they're safe and that they feel part of a family and they're building a relationship with the company that they're servicing. So it's quite wild. Um, but I haven't seen any dramatic stories out there yet with the hotel world. I'm hoping we won't. But as times are showing us, these are just kind of wacky, and hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed. So we have the largest hotel technology exhibition coming up in the next week, where you'll be there with
oh,
your team. Are you planning on showing anything nifty, new, exciting that people should be watching out for?
absolutely. We've got a couple of surprises in store. So My tech team has told me I can't talk about it. In fact, our sales team doesn't even know. So
Okay.
there's a couple of things we're working on, which we figure, they're at the booth, and it's a way of showing how we're always thinking about what will get people's attention in case of an emergency. What are the different ways of communicating? And we've actually come up with a way, because some of the feedback we got is like, people miss text messages, or the phone is lying aside, and the push notifications, and maybe you don't have a watch, or the watch doesn't get triggered, or you have a do not disturb on your watch or
Right.
on your phone, so then you don't get the message, and that can be a problem if someone presses a button. So we're coming up with, really interesting ways. Again, because there's fewer people, it's how do we get people's attention so that we do have something at the booth. And then we're also, of course, with the chipsets shortages and all, there's been this, the timelines and stuff, and last year's HITEC having been canceled. So we're showcasing our new button. It is out. It is being launched. So we're really excited to be able to show that to everyone, um, and also track and clean, and just be able to demo the new product that we've just been talking about, which is, the product that we developed in response to COVID.
Right. Yeah, high tech's going to be fantastic. I'm glad to see that there's a face-to-face event going on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of the Canadian border, I won't be going down myself. But it's going to be nice for people to shake hands again, or bump elbows, or whatever the proper thing is to do these days. Um,
You'll be surprised. I just came back from BITAC. People want hugs. It's
oh,
just
I bet.
now that we're vaccinated, everyone's just like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long," and it's great to be able to just see smiling faces and talk to folks. It really is
Yeah, it's crazy. We're going out for dinner the first time in a year and a half tonight, because the government has put these vaccine passports in place up in Ontario, and my wife thinks, okay, now we can go out, which is awesome. But it's been a long, long time, and I don't think I'll hug the server, but who knows? It's crazy times. So we're coming to the end. What I'd love to do is for you to uh, give the viewers one last overview, and your last thoughts about where we're headed, and where Track and Protect is headed. And I know we've talked about a little bit, but I think you've got a great company philosophy. And as I said, I won't be able to see you at HITEC, unfortunately, but maybe I'll go visit your parents and see them instead.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Well, Track and Protect, we're really excited. I'm sure I know you saw the press release about IHG. We're
I certainly
very
did. I was
excited.
going to let you bring that up.
Yeah. So we're very excited about that. We're actually, we're in the last year during 2020, while things did slow down, what we did do was we doubled down on making sure we were able to showcase our product, work with brands, and becoming brand approved. So we're a vendor approved, Hyatt approved, and so we are preferred vendors to many of the large brands um, in the country. And what that means is that, over the next 12 to 18 months, we see COVID, will it go away? I don't think so. I think it's here to stay. I think that's, leisure travel is, of course, outpacing corporate travel and group travel. So what we see is, we see the market correcting itself in terms of the labor challenges that we're facing. We do see that adjusting as we have more and more people becoming vaccinated, and more
Right.
vaccines and booster shots being given.
Sure.
And then as hotels return, then over the 12 to 18 months, we see ourselves being part of the conversation again, with our vision of being, the number one safety button provider worldwide for hotels and casinos, but our mission to have a meaningful impact on safety for guests, employees, as well as unregistered guests such as human trafficking victims. We see that conversation happening, and whether it's around guest safety from the perspective of COVID-19, but also from perspective of medical emergencies, using safety buttons for them.
Right.
So we see a bigger conversation happening as the market adjusts and we get back into working on tech solutions. One of the things we're talking about at High Tech is doing more with less. It's,
Right.
retaining the employees you have, being an advocate for your employees through safety, but through other means as well, keeping the ones you have while you continue to attract new employees to be able to meet the demand that's coming. So, so Track and Protect really, we're looking to be partners in those conversations with hoteliers.
Awesome. I think it's great, and I wish you all the best at HITEC,
Thank you.
and hopefully we'll see each other face to face very soon. Parminder Batra, CEO of Track and Protect. Thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alan. So
All
great to
right.
see you.
See you soon.
Okay. Bye.